Okay, now onto today's webinar by Vinny. To introduce Vinny, after childhood in the Indian military, Vinny moved to New Zealand with his family and attended high school in Auckland. He recently completed his Bachelor of Engineering with honors, specializing in electrical engineering and computer systems, but is best known for his entrepreneurial prowess and ability to develop seemingly simple solutions to some of the world's biggest problems. During his final year of university, he competed in the Microsoft Imagine Cup, where students from around the world combine their imagination with Microsoft technology to provide solutions to global problems. For the first time in the competition's history, last year, New Zealand was a global finalist. To put the success in perspective, more than 250,000 students from over 100 countries enter the Imagine Cup each year. Vinny and his team, OneBeep, came third in the world for their software which uses radio signals to send information to laptops in developing countries where there is little or no access to the internet. This year, Vinny was back in the Imagine Cup 2011 finals with a new team, OneBuzz. OneBuzz provides tools which identify and control the spread of malaria. They placed in the top 6 in the world final, and Vinny was fortunate enough to gain airtime on CNN Live with Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer. These are great achievements, and they speak for themselves. And also, very recently, OneBeep won one of 3 prizes in the IEEE President's Change the World competition, which is really a great achievement as well, because as far as I understand, more than 200 entries were submitted. And so OneBeep has catapulted Vinny onto the world stage, showcasing how young New Zealanders have the potential to shape the future and contribute to solving global problems. So, Vinny, with that, it's over to you, to your webinar.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Adrian. And good morning to people in the New Zealand time zone, and good evening and good afternoon to the rest of the world. It's pretty early back here in New Zealand, especially if we haven't had much sleep working on the projects for a while. But it's a privilege to be here and presenting this to you guys, and I'm looking forward to it. And let's just get started. And as Adrian mentioned, we'll take questions at the end and just put them in the chat window. Yes, it's not a problem. Well, OneBeep started off as an entry into the Microsoft Imagine Cup, which Adrian has just mentioned a little bit about. Now, it's the world's biggest student technology competition. But the theme of the competition is to use technology to solve one of the world's toughest issues. So what they've done is they've left it quite open. So they've left multiple different opportunities for innovation in fields like health, education, IT, internet access, or ability to use a computer for people who have disabilities. So students come up with quite unique things. But when we took part in the competition in 2010, what we wanted to do was concentrate on the problem of illiteracy. Because as I was growing up in India, what I really saw was if you can educate a country's or even a village's or a city's population, you can get them to a level where they can solve their own problems. So the dependency on the rest of the world decreases. The world does not have to step in every time something goes wrong. So when we identified the problem of illiteracy, what we then moved on to was, well, what can we actually do? How can we help solve this problem? And first thing that we realized was that we did not want to start from scratch. We did not want to reinvent the wheel. We did not want to just start up another organization or another process to go and fight the problem of illiteracy. Because what we saw was there's a fragmented approach when it comes to fighting a lot of the world's problems, because everybody's trying to do their own thing on their own front. So what we agreed upon was that we want to add value to what the world is already doing. We want to go out there, see, well, how is the world already fighting the problem of illiteracy, and how can we help them do it better? So, as engineers, what we saw was organizations such as One Laptop Per Child, OLPC, and other organizations such as Intel Classmate PC. Now, these people are deploying very low-cost laptops all over the world. And just to give you a perspective on the problem, there are about 2.4 billion children in the world, and half of them are below the accepted literacy line by the world, the UN. And this is quite a staggering number, that half the children have a problem in reading, writing, or they don't finish school at a higher grade. Their parents take them out of it. There are a lot of different things that come together, but a lot of the children in this world do not have access to much good education. That's why organizations such as One Laptop Per Child are providing the children with the tools to be able to improve their education. Now, here is more details about the Intel Classmate PC and the One Laptop Per Child. They have deployed nearly 3 million laptops in remote regions all over the world. And the plan between the two organizations is to deploy nearly 30 million in the next 5 years. Now that is an amazing feat, because these people are sending out laptops all over the world for a very highly subsidized price, and the governments are helping them out with it. But what we saw was, well, that's all nice and good, but is there a problem that these organizations are facing? Is there a problem that the people using the laptops are facing? And if there is, well, how can we make it better? So what we saw was these laptops, as I mentioned, go in remote areas. So one of the biggest problems there is that there is no connectivity. So there is no broadband, 3G, 4G technologies that we in the developed world are so used to are primarily missing where these laptops are going. So even though the intention of the projects, such as OLPC and Intel Classroom PC, is amazing, but there's a big thing missing from it, that is connectivity. Because you can't send books to them, you can't send education content, classroom curriculum, maybe hopefully in the future software updates. So there's a lot of things missing that once they come together, they provide a much more value to the students. Because then you can update the platform with fresh content, and that really makes a difference. So what we realized, this is a problem that we want to solve for Microsoft Imagine Cup. Now, it's a pretty big problem, and right now it's a global problem, and it's only going to get bigger in case as more and more laptops go out, and internet infrastructure is not really getting there this fast. It's not cost effective. Some areas might have mobile coverage, but the mobile data planes are too expensive. Areas might also have satellite coverage, but then you need a specialized receiver, and the costs are quite prohibitive. So what we saw, well, what was highly available in these areas? And what we realized was that AM and FM radios is almost everywhere. There's almost 97% coverage of radio within Africa, and quite a high number in South America as well. And I guess that one of the reasons for this is communities already depend for their daily entertainment and information on the radio. So there is no additional need for infrastructure when it comes to radio. And that's what we wanted to work on. That we realized that radio is a possible method that we can transmit files over. We didn't know how back then, but we knew that this is a possible channel. And another thing about radio is that it's a broadcast mechanism. So multiple different people at the same time can receive the same information. So simultaneously, you can send a lot of information to a lot of different people. And that was another advantage of using radio. So what we did was we came up with a method that converts digital documents into sound, plays that sound over the radio. At the receiving end, you just plug a standard radio into the computer using a 3.5 millimeter audio cable, so that goes into the headphone jack of the radio and the microphone jack of the computer. So the audio from the radio can be passed on to the computer, And the software on the computer then converts back the sound into a document. So now wherever you can have reach of radio, you can get sound too. And then sound can be converted back. So what we wrote is a software. Here are glimpses of a little old version. And I think this was a few months ago at least. So here we have a publisher software and a receiving software. So on both ends of the chain, the publishing software is used to either write up a text and convert it into an audio file, or you can choose a file that may be any file on the computer. It's PDFs or Word files or OpenOffice, multiple different formats. And once you choose them, you can convert that particular file and you press the publish button on the bottom. And it converts that into an audio file. So that audio file can be put on any, like for example, a CD or a USB or any device that can pass on an audio file. And you can send it to the local radio stations who can play it as just another music file. It doesn't sound anything like music, but it travels in the same bandwidth that music does. Now at the receiving end, what we've done is we've automated the process of receiving the file. So you can just simply plug your radio into the computer, press the begin recording button, and keep on working in the background. So you can keep, for example, children can be in the class doing their work with the teacher, while in the background the software is going through the audio, downloading it, converting it into the document, deleting the deleted audio file, and then adding that particular file to the OneBeep library. Now this library is again designed in such a way that children can look for easy to use tags. So documents come in as English, science, maths. They can search for documents. A lot of different things. I mean, it's just making it easier and more intuitive for the children. Pick up a subject, see what tutorials or books have been received in context to that or regarding that, and take that information and use it. So, for example, we did some trials in the Pacific Islands, and they were missing a lot of, let's say, local language content. So they had a lot of stuff on the laptop, but there was nothing in the local language of the children. And I think that hampered them a little, even if it's the storybooks or even if it was something that they can read easily. So what we did was we digitized some books, scanned them into it, converted them into PDFs and sent them through. So now what they had was some storybooks for the children in their own language. It was easy for them to read and enjoy the process. One of the things that they do try and teach here with the platform is English and the use of the computer. But still, it's always good to have some content in your own language on the device. Now, since then, what we've done, we've been working on taking this technology ahead. Because what we learned in Imagine Cup is all good and nice to have an idea, but it always comes down to what is the application of it. How are you ever going to have a sustainable platform to take this ahead? Because it's nice and well for students to take part in a competition, but if you really want to make this project a reality, what steps do you have to go through? And I think one thing that we learned, it was a hard lesson, was that you necessarily need capital, money to get started off with. It was not easy to get started off just like that if you don't have much previous business history or if you haven't learned a lot of the business processes. And I think that's a big challenge for engineers per se as well, because we don't like to think about more than just the technology. The commercialization process, we usually leave it to other people to come in and take over. Even in startups, we leave some business developer to come on board and take it on. But I guess we didn't want to do that. What we wanted to do was increase our own skill set and take OneBeep out to the world ourselves. And that's what we've been working on for the last 6 to 8 months, other than the other project, which I'm going to mention in a bit. And we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about how do you raise the money, how do you pitch an idea. It's not just about the technology. You have to share your vision with the investors. You have to show them, well, there is value in this for you. You'll be quite surprised, even if people really need the product, you still have to sell it to them. And in one sense that they have to see the need for it. and need for long-term engagement with the product as well. So it's not just that we are telling them to just install this on the software on the computer, and hopefully you might be able to sell a few books in the year, and that's your return on your investment. So that kind of a pitch won't really work. So what we had to get across was this is an investment in your own people that you're making, because the children, again, it's a very non-tangible return per se. You can't just measure what's the return of education other than the fact that overall education in the country goes up, and maybe in a generation or two, the economy might grow as well, and people have a higher literacy level. But it's not easy sell because governments keep on changing, education programs keep on changing. So we have to keep all of that in mind. Now, before I move on, I'll just give you a little update on where OneBeep is right now. So OneBeep we've successfully tested it over 100 kilometers distance. Now what we are working on is the multiple different file formats. So we can hopefully in some time get software patches across, maybe even software updates. Only tricky thing with software is if there is a little bit of a code and the lines missing, we have a problem. You can't compile it back and run it. The thing with books is even if a few lines and paragraphs are missing, in the next transmission you can take that on board and correct a few things. But software is quite tricky like that, and that's what we've been trying to work on, is how do we get multiple different file formats through. Because as you may know, in radio, there's a lot of fading that happens. So signal fades in and out, and that fading usually results in the loss of particular set of data. And because we don't have a feedback loop, we have no way of knowing or guaranteeing 100% that the file has been received on the other end, or how much of it has been received. So a lot of error detection and error encoding and error handling has gone into the coding itself, the software. The majority of that is not just about the speed of transmission that we are getting, it's about the reliability of it. Because in the end, if a child gets a book in an hour or in 10 minutes, that doesn't make a huge difference. But they have to get the book in as full a format without anything missing from it as possible. So we've been developing OneBeep for a while now. We're working with some wireless researchers in New Zealand here. I was in Portugal a few months ago. So we met with the largest laptop manufacturer for education projects in the world. So these are the people who manufacture the Intel Classmate PC laptop, and they were very excited about the product. I gave them a demo of it, and hopefully they can come on board and we can take it ahead and forcing ahead. Now, this project, Imagine Cup, finished in July 2010, and that was the OneBeep project, which was ranked third in the world. So then we got back in our final year of engineering. We were hooked onto the process of trying to use technology which is very real world. What I'm saying here is not glamorous, cutting edge, state of the art technology, but technology which more than half of the population on this world, 3 billion people have access to. Simple mobile phones, FM radios, technology that the common man has access to. And also fighting a problem that the common man is facing. Fighting a problem that is endemic in the developing world. And this year, for Imagine Cup, what we wanted to target health-related issues. We have already targeted an education project which we are working full time on, and but for this I brought on a new team. So because the old the team for OneBeep was full time working on OneBeep and I didn't want to distract them, so we brought on a new team and we took part in Imagine Cup again. And this time we targeted malaria. Now, malaria is a huge problem and affects nearly 300 million people globally. And it is a problem that affects the young and the old. It's a non-discriminatory problem. So it affects huge amounts of population all over the world. And the thing about malaria is that it affects your whole economy. Because malaria affects you in such a way that it hits your immune system. So people can't go to work. They can't even sometimes get out of bed. And that affects, as stays in the bottom of the slide, costs an African economy $12 billion every year. It's almost the GDP of 10 African countries put together. So the scale of this problem is huge. And I had malaria. So when I was growing up, I had malaria twice. And my mother had malaria when she was pregnant with me. So I've always, felt the need to do something about this problem. And when I got access to such a platform, then I was like, well, this is something that I want to work on. And I was fortunate enough to be working with a team that wanted to work on it with me. Now, malaria is not like other diseases. So it's not like HIV or in some cases tuberculosis or cancer. It's preventable and it's curable. But it's preventable and it's curable given that you have the right resources at the right place at the right time. And that is really important. It's crucial because you need to eat or consume the medicine at a particular time, within a particular time frame, once you know that you have malaria. And sometimes a lot of it is also just about going to the clinic and then having medicine in stock. And we need $6 billion to globally fight the problem of malaria. And what we have right now is 1.8 billion. So as you can see, there's a huge difference in between what we have and what we need. So I guess the simple solution would have been to get more money. But if it was that simple, it would have already been done. And we realized that it's not just a straight answer of saying, let's just throw more money at this problem. So what we realized, what we knew, we had to efficiently and more effectively use the money at hand. And before we go on to using a lot of our technology or mind, put effort into solving the problem, we need to understand, again, coming back to what we did in OneBeep, is what is the world already doing? And what we realized was that the world is doing is spraying of larvicide at the breeding grounds, deployment of nets to prevent from bites, and medication to cure the infection. So these are like the three tools that the world is using to fight the problem of malaria. And, well, there are a lot of questions. Questions such as where are the breeding grounds of mosquito? Where is it best to go and spray? Where are the outbreaks occurring? Have we got the right stock levels at the right place? Where do we need to get the medicine to? There are so many unanswered questions when it comes to malaria. Is that we're fighting a war on so many different levels. And the little mosquito is winning that war. Because we don't know how to use technology yet to fight the problem of malaria. Now, as I said, this fight is a very personal fight because I've had it a few times when I was growing up. And so what I wanted to start off with is bringing on somebody who has a lot of experience in this field. And that's where we found a New Zealander, Dr. Nick Douglas, who understood malaria very well. Let's put it that way. He was a Rhodes Scholar from New Zealand to Oxford. And the good thing was he was in New Zealand, he was visiting, and we signed him up as our mentor for this project. And he stayed within New Zealand because he believed in the technology, OneBeep's technology. He was like, I'm going to postpone my, I think it was his final year at Oxford. He's like, I'll postpone that because I want to work on this project with you guys. So his commitment was huge. So he stayed on board and we took part in the competition again. So we went through the whole process, and what we did was we realized that the information infrastructure in the developed world is pretty strong. So we go to our doctor, they prescribe us the medicine, and we just go to the pharmacy. They have got all the details about us. Everything is categorized and stored in databases. But this is what the information infrastructure in the developed world looks like. Because in February, I went to India and I spent a month there in the villages to really try and understand the problem at a grassroots level. See what the problems the people are facing and how can we help it with the real world technology. As I said, we didn't have any information infrastructure, so that led to a lot of problems in understanding, well, how do we even solve this problem that we can't even understand or measure. So what we did was we created a whole platform which took in information from sources such as, for example, mobile phones, simple mobile phones in the developing world that we can get people to text in information. So the remote health clinics to text in information about how many cases of malaria are they seeing, what stock levels of medicine do they have available, how many deaths have they noticed. The simple data that they're already recording. They were recording the data on paper. Now that paper takes months to collect, depending on how remote the regions are. Then it sits on desks in the headquarters months again before being analyzed, before being put into the system. So what we wanted to do was we want to fast track this mechanism. We wanted to understand as soon as possible where the outbreaks are occurring, how much stock levels of medicine is needed, what can we do. But you see, the system was still reactive. We were reacting to a problem that has already occurred. What we had to be was preemptive. We had to say that this is going to happen, and how can we help solve it? So as I mentioned, I spent a month in India, and we fortunate enough to partner up with the National Institute of Malaria Research. These are the biggest people fighting malaria in India. So what we did again was we wrote algorithms that are kind of like the foreign exchange currency prediction. We took those main chunk of those algorithms and we modified them to take in inputs such as weather patterns, malaria case break history, things such as soil types, how far the human population is from breeding grounds such as rice fields, and we mapped all of that and we took a lot of information out. And what we did was we try and create a prediction model. What we did was before 2 and 3 weeks, the system can raise an alert that we think a particular growth or fast tracking of malaria is going to happen in this particular region. So once we know that, we can deploy medicine to them beforehand. So now we are trying to get into the preemptive zone. Send medicine to the people before you know, even though they're going to need it. So that's the domain we are working in. And we signed up with Philip Becker, which have got a huge global social innovation program, and they came on board and they helped us out a lot in the development. And they told us because they're fighting malaria in Botswana, so they told us a lot of different things in terms of how can you take on real world technologies, so simple mobile phones, texting mechanisms. So just quickly, I'll give you an example. When I was spending that month in India, I met with this lady at the clinic. So she had walked about 4.5 to 5 hours with her son, who she thought had malaria, to get him some medicine. They did some blood tests, and son did have malaria, but the clinic did not have medicine. So now she'd walked so long, she'd walked 4 hours, 5 hours back, and then again she didn't have access, and so much time and mental pressure, so many resources were wasted as well. So what we did was we incorporated this technique within our system that any person into our database, they can text in their postcode or their area code. The system will respond back by saying, well, the closest clinic to you with medicine is this far away in this particular region. So now even before you leave the house, you know if the clinic will have medicine. So not only are we working on the side of providing them with medicine, but also the infrastructure to try and distribute that medicine much more efficiently. And we also partnered with Sir Ray Avery. He's an amazing social entrepreneur. He just been knighted a few months ago. And he's been at the forefront of providing real-world technology to people all over the world. And as I mentioned, I was in Europe a few months ago, and I met up with the European Space Agency, who would really help us out take this thing to a next level. So they helped us develop these remote sensors to record a lot of meteorological data and data relating to malaria as well. And they provide us with free satellite connectivity to relay this data back to our databases and provide with very accurate predictions as to where malaria is going, how it's going to spread, what can we do to help it, stop it. So, as I was saying, there is a lot of help available out there, but you have to go and find it in terms of the sense that you can't just expect to take part in a project and just for the sake of doing something, go through the journey. We didn't want to just, take part for the sake of taking part. So we were really motivated, and I said as a personal story as well, take this ahead. And that's why we put a lot of effort into both OneBeep and OneBuzz. But as I said, OneBuzz is a much more, it's a huge project. So it's not just about the product, it's about the partnerships you have to create But with OneBeep, it's more of a mature product. OneBeep is much further down the development line, and we are hoping to have OneBeep out there deployed onto laptops within the next 9 to 10 months, and looking at hopefully initial deployment of around 1.5 million laptops with the OneBeep software, and get it to regions in Venezuela, Bolivia, Colombia. So South American region is what we're targeting at the moment, and hopefully take it on to the rest of the world, and then take on the OneBuzz project as well. That's all I have to say about the projects I've been working on. I'd love to answer any of the questions that you have, or any comments, or any feedback, or any ideas in ways that we can improve the project. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, Adrian here again. Thanks a lot, Vinny. That was a very informative, interesting, and also very inspiring presentation. You certainly know how to give a great presentation. I think just to summarize what I took from that presentation, one of the points you said was really that you didn't try to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of work already going on in the area of trying to provide data connectivity and in trying to fight malaria. But you really have to look around and see what was already being done instead of trying to duplicate efforts and compete with others in the field. You really wanted to find where is the real gap which you could contribute to, and that has been key in your success, in really being able to clearly identify the needs, and to realize the fact as well in doing all of this that it is probably very difficult sitting in New Zealand to fight malaria when you're not surrounded by an environment where malaria can threaten the populations, and that's, I think, what drove you to actually go to India to actually learn and work with people on the ground, and to get a perspective on the ground of what the real challenges are, so that you could then develop appropriate solutions. Which is, it's quite clear that your solution regarding the software monitoring of malaria and to help to direct resources where they're needed is really very, very appropriate. I also saw something on CNN just a few days ago regarding how FMS technology is being used to do the same or similar things, to direct medical supplies when they run out to rural health posts, for example, in Africa. And the other thing, which I took away as well, is that you really tried to come up with very simple solutions and very appropriate solutions that of course build on existing infrastructure. In the case of OneBeep, the existing infrastructure is one laptop per child. That's a project that's been going on for a while. There is huge potential over there to try to connect, provide some real connectivity for these laptops, because I know that the OLPC project has really been struggling with that. It's very, very inspiring how you're trying to also develop so many partnerships, because you clearly recognize that there's you need help, and there's a wider ecosystem of players. One of my questions, what I was thinking is, how are you going to provide connectivity for your OneBuzz malaria solution? And then, I saw that you have the sensor monitoring, at least, perhaps the ESA can help with that. The European Space Agency can help with that and the like. So that's great, and there's obviously many people from the field also endorsing your work. So congratulations, that's really fantastic. And so there are a number of questions. The first one that came up was, and perhaps you could answer this, what's the data transfer rate of your OneBeep solution? Really, what kinds of applications do you foresee with this? I think you alluded to it in terms of file transfers, but I'd like to also understand how this can really contribute to educational outcomes as well. Okay.
Well, in terms of the transfer rate, the thing is, it really depends on the channel you have available. So, if it's a mono FM, you might be able to get maybe 5 to 6 kbps, or if it's stereo, you can bump it up again to maybe hopefully 8 to 10. But as I was mentioning before as well, it's not about the speed. I would frankly say that we haven't even bothered to do much development when it comes to speed, because once you have the data integrity there, then you move on to the speed, and the data integrity for us is huge. So right now we have because as there is no feedback loop, so we can say almost 80 to 85% that with surety. That's a pretty high surety. If you don't have a feedback loop, that the file has been received in its full format, and this is based on not just theoretical calculations, but practical demonstrations and practical tests that we have done. Now, if we can get a speed of up to maybe, I would be very happy with this. If we can get 6 kbps at a distance of 200 to 250 kilometers, that would be amazing. So that would be a target for us to hit. And when it comes to education, I agree with you, Adrian. It's not just about sending the files. You see, the thing is, a lot of the teachers in these areas are not very well educated themselves, and they struggle. Especially when you put in computers in that environment, the children learn the technology much faster than the teachers do, because the brains are wired that way, and the teachers then struggle to add value. So, and I think that diminishes their capacity to do a lot of amazing stuff. So what we've been trying to do also is work with some organizations that have training resources for teachers. And we are working with some organizations to convert that training resources in native language of teachers and send it to them over this system. So they have an understanding of how do you deal with situations like you have children having problems with the computer. How do you still add value to areas that you haven't got much knowledge about? So it's about empowering the teachers as well as much as empowering the students, because an empowered teacher will have a very strong classroom. And as I said, the tangible returns on education aren't just how much, as an investment. It's not about how much money are you getting back out of the solution. It's about how much long-term value are you adding. So, and I would agree with you. It's not easy to calculate that, because it takes years, and then again, it's also you have to measure how much literacy has gone up by what platforms are affecting what. So, we take a lot of those things into consideration. And as Alex asked, have any major corporations offered tangible resources today? Well, yes and no, because you see, they come on board, and then it's all about trading on the brand value of OneBeep's. So it's less about what can they actually do, but more about how can they use this brand name associated with theirs and get the corporate citizenship points. And I've been quite wary on that. So I don't just want to work with big organizations and big names just for the sake of just for the fact that we will have their name on board as well and they will have ours. Because I've worked very hard to show and create a brand value, which means what I mean by that is show the world that you can use real world technology. Students can do it, and as Adrian mentioned as well, we don't have a literacy problem in New Zealand. We don't have a malaria problem in New Zealand, but we are doing both of these solutions, sitting from here in the corner of the world. What the message I'm trying to get across is, if we can change the world from the corner of it, people living in those situations can definitely do it. So it's not about helping people, but it's about empowering people. And the same thing when it comes to big organizations. Yes, they have offered their help, but that comes with a lot of strings attached to it. Let's put it that way. So I'm proud to say that the New Zealand government has been very helpful, and they don't, as I mentioned, they're not facing those problems here, but they still understand the vision that we've tried to share with the rest of the world, and they've been supportive of it. Now, Microsoft has been a huge supporter. So Microsoft has covered a lot of our travel costs to regions. They've covered, even as I said, Imagine Cup was an amazing platform to share our idea, get the message out there. And it's a global platform again, so you get your message to a lot of different constituencies. And we are always out there looking for people who share our vision and passion. And we'd be love to, we'd be willing to work with anybody who comes on board and brings value to it. Because we're not just looking for money, we're looking for smart money who can help us take this project to the next level as well.
Okay, yeah, I have another question. And I think that this probably applies to both solutions, but let's just focus on OneBeep for a moment. In terms of, I know that you're very much sort of in a pilot phase right now. You mentioned, I think you've done a pilot in the Pacific Islands, if I'm not mistaken. But in the long term, you'd obviously want to really scale this thing up so that it reaches many, many villages all around the world. And one of the challenges is really, let's say the education level or the low skills level in many of these places which you really want to have impact in. And this means that, sometimes a lot of, perhaps technical knowledge might be needed in how to, install and run and, maintain and so on, and to keep your service or connectivity going in these places. So, I mean, my question is, how much maintenance is really needed to keep it going? I mean, is it really easy to install your solution and to provide training and the like? And how will you ensure that, it kind of sustains in the long term? Do you have any ideas on that? Thoughts?
That's a very important point you're raising. And you see, a question like this about the training or the technical ease of use. These are some things that we weren't just waiting till the deployments to happen to try and figure out. This is something that has to be ingrained within the development phase itself, because that's going to determine a lot of usability of the things. And what we've seen and what we've tried to work hard on is we want to have as less dependency of technology as possible. So in terms of the creation of those documents, it's as simple as now in the new interface, you can just drag a file onto the little square on your desktop and converts it and spits out an audio file. So the conversion process is that simple. You can just drag a file onto the thing and convert it into an audio file. And once that audio file is ready, it's just a matter of putting it on a CD or DVD or whatever format the radio stations can play, providing it to them, and then just for them it's just a matter of just playing that audio file. And the receiving end, again, we've tried to make it very easy, completely software-based solution. You don't need any particular hardware. You just tune into the right frequency. So, for example, what we've also tried to do is announcements over the radio saying a file or a book is going to come at this time, and you can tune in to hear. And before the file transmits, you can have announcements saying you're on the right frequency. Just plug it with the computer, maybe in their native language. So a little set of instructions goes with each file as well. The receiving end, all you have to do is just plug a piece of wire into the radio and the computer. And in the software, it also shows graphics of how you can do that, just to make it even simpler. But again, at the receiving end, the whole process is automated. So all you have to do is press the receive button and then let the software do the rest. So once you've received the file, it converts it back, puts it into your library, deletes the audio file, clears up the cache. It does a lot of different things that the user doesn't have to worry about. And I know the technology, you still have to do some work in terms of the creation of the file, transmission of it, receiving of it. But we've tried to keep it as simple as possible. And we've also at different stages created instruction sets that can be given out. And some of them are in the native Pacific language as well. So, and I think from the preliminary trials that we've had is people haven't had problems in understanding that, because we've tried to keep it as intuitive as possible. But again, we're continually working on improving the usability of the technology, and the seeing that if we are not available in that environment, how and what problems people will face and how they can deal with it. And I think we're on the right track with it. I won't say we've done all of it, but we're heading in that direction.
Okay, there's a question here that's also come in. Is the data transfer conducted while the station is broadcasting its regular voice programs, or should the station be broadcasting data only? Do you understand that question?
Yep. That's a very good question. There's a sense of cryptography that you can hide the data within the broadcast that the radio stations are doing, but that really decreases. How do I put this? The quality of the data. So that decreases. You have to jumble it up, put it in, hide it into different formats, and hide it behind the audio that's already being transmitted. But as I'm saying here is that the government already putting and have already put in cases millions of dollars into these laptop programs. And in many cases, the governments control these frequencies as well. So we haven't had much problem in convincing them that, well, you've already spent a few $100 million on this. Why don't you we have some frequencies available for broadcasting of the data? So yes, we have an option that we can transmit the data while the sound is going. But we would much rather prefer to transmit it as just data alone, because that's going to give us a much greater throughput and much higher error detection, much higher credit, much higher surety that data at the other end will be received.
Yeah, I have a question about OneBuzz, and that is, you're trying to, if I understand correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong. You're obviously trying to, be able to track the spread of malaria on one hand, and so where is malaria infections likely to be over time. And on the other hand, you're also trying to manage the resources. And those resources might be in, let's say, different parts of the country or the region. And then you try to divert some of those resources to the right areas. But how do you plan on, my question is regarding the resources. How are you planning on actually tracking them in a technical sense when, connectivity in certain areas might be very, very poor. And I mean, who are you relying on to get this actual data of how many malaria nets are there in a certain place, or how many malaria tablets are there in a certain rural place? Could you just give me some information on that? Because I understood the sensor part. That's to do with the environmental kind of data. But, yeah.
Well, and the point that you have raised is very on the mark, because you can have the best algorithms running in the background, but if the people on the ground don't provide you with the data, then you won't have anything to feed to the algorithms, and you can just sit in your data center and nothing happening. But you have to understand one thing about the problem of malaria is that the people who are handling the resources have suffered from it. That's a very powerful thing. What that means is they want to be involved in the fight against it, because they've seen their sons, their daughters, and their parents and themselves have malaria, and they've gone through that process. And that's why what I saw in India was everybody was so proactive when I was talking about this platform to them, was that the remote clinic workers were like, yes, we will definitely take the number of medicine that we have available in different areas, even if it's a rough estimate. We can text that in. We want more medicine when it's needed. We want this. We want the bed nets distribution. I talked to the bed nets distribution people, so they were like, what we can text you is when beds leave the warehouse, which city are they going to? What the quantities? And I asked, and I was talking to the people who were deploying them. And as you might know, Adrian, as well, that in India the mobile penetration is huge. It is amazing how many people carry a mobile phone. It's a simple mobile phone, but it is there. And they are saying that almost 90% of Africa will have mobile phone coverage, and a lot of people will have phones within the next 5 years. So again, we're looking at a huge penetration when it comes to being able to simply send a text through. And we worked with a few organizations in India to set up a free text number. So what that means, again, as I said, it won't cost anybody anything to send that text in, and it's only helping them fight the problem barrier. So it's again about the empowering of the people. And once people have suffered through a problem, you'd be surprised as to how much greater lengths they go through to fight it. And the same thing comes in providing the data for to feed the algorithms, because people are taking that, people are taking off that opportunity and to try and fight this problem. And I know the quality of the data still won't be perfect, but it will be better than what it is right now, which is almost zero. So that's one of the things that we're working on. And again, same with OneBeep and same with OneBuzz. It's an iterative process. So once you start, you're going to learn something, you're going to incorporate it back into the system, you're going to make it better. Something might not be very useful to the people. You remove them, add something that the people need. So it's an iterative process, and again, we are learning through it. And hopefully we can make the whole journey in terms of the fighting of malaria much more efficient.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that answered my question. I mean, I think also the power in what you've done in your OneBeep's, especially in the algorithms. I mean, it's not only in the, I think there are other things out there which, let's say other applications, the one I saw on CNN, which attempts to kind of, collect data, but I think yours is taking it another step in that you're really doing this, this prediction and monitoring of the malaria, and then you're trying to somehow use that data along with the data of the resources and try to create some kind of algorithm so that you send the resources to the right place. So I think that's for me that's a very inventive kind of aspect to what you're doing. I think it really has huge potential. So that's fantastic. And I wish you guys all the best. I don't think we have any further questions, but do you have anything you'd like to add before we formally close off?
Well, I think my email was on the first slide. If anybody has any comments or questions, or if you come up with any other technology that you think is relevant to us, to fight us in the right direction, love to hear your thoughts. I'll just put my email address here. Just drop me a mail anytime if you come across something that might help us out in any of our solutions, or an organization that might be able to assist us in what we're trying to achieve. And thank you very much for your time and listening to me.
Okay, Vinny, and on behalf of all of us and the team behind the IEEE Humanitarian Technology webinar, please, I'd like to thank you and your team for the good work you're doing and for this great presentation that you gave. You really serve as a great inspiration, and I know I've met you in New Zealand, and I've seen, and you've told me how much effort and energy you're putting into this, and I do hope that, and I think you are already having a great impact, and one day I hope that your solutions will be really used and benefit a lot of people who deserve it. And this is, it's really fantastic. I mean, you're still so young, so you have a great future ahead of you, I assure you. So, fantastic, and congratulations for the work you're doing. And
I appreciate it.
I hope that some of the people listening in, might show some interest, and indeed, through this platform, there might be some connections made, and you might help each other out in what you're doing. So, all the best, and good morning to you. And for me, it's good night. And for everyone else, I think for those attending in the US, I think you're probably getting ready to head home, or you are home already. Have a good dinner. And
thank you very much for having me.
See you. Thanks. And by the way, to everyone attending, you'll be able to view an archive of this, replay of this webinar at your convenience. And don't forget to log in to get your continuing education credits. Okay, thank you, and see you. Bye.